After a while, the green light seemed to lose control and slowly dissipated. Chung. The sharp sound rang out, and the frost sword fell back down, landing in front of the two. Chahao, with his heart still pounding, quickly bowed towards the direction of the quiet room and said respectfully, "Thank you, Uncle Tia, for sparing us." Lin Jingyu, who was standing beside him, also bowed his head in awe at Tia Bai's unexpected display of supernatural powers. In the whole of tranquility, the disciples saw Tia Bai's rage, and none dared to breathe heavily, especially Zhang Xiaofan. Witnessing Tia Bai's marvelous powers for the first time, he was extremely admiring, but in a moment of distraction, the movement aggravated his wound, causing him to exclaim in pain and grit his teeth. Hearing Zhang Xiaofan's cry of pain, Tia Bai glanced at him. Zhang Xiaofan gritted his early when Linger and Lin Jingyu clashed, and Chehao used ice to block the dragon-slaying sword. "So are you?" sighed and replied, "He didn't summon the frost sword." Tia Bai snorted and said, "During the last 7 schools competition, Chehao needed the power of his magic sword to condense the ice wall. I didn't expect that he would reach this level in just a few decades." At this point, he turned to look at Su Ru and asked, "You were watching from the side. What do you think of his cultivation level?" Su Ru calmly said, "He was calm and had spare energy when casting spells. At least he has reached the 8th level of the Yuking realm." Tia Bai's lips twitched, wanting to say something, but hesitated. However, Su Ru continued for him. "Under the disciples of the Great Bamboo Peak, there is no one who can match him." Tia Bai looked deeply at his wife, then turned his head and looked at the bamboo in the courtyard, lost in thought as the winter approached, causing the bamboo to gradually wither and turn yellow, lost in contemplation. After a while, he suddenly asked, "How is Xiaoqi?" Su Ru looked at him, smiled faintly, and replied, "He was beaten by you and vomited blood." Tia Bai seemed to pause for a moment. His stout figure moved slightly, but he didn't turn around. Instead, he said lightly, "Tonight, take a Da Huang pill to him, so he won't pretend to be dead tomorrow and leave us with nothing to eat." Night fell, and the sky darkened. Zhang Xiaofan slowly returned to his residence, pushed open the door, and the monkey Zihui, who had been following behind him, rushed into the room first, followed by the affectionate Da Huang, who had become very close to Zihui in just one day. A monkey and a dog played around in the room, barking and chirping incessantly. Zhang Xiaofan's lips curved slightly. He walked to the table and sat down. His chest still ached faintly, but his mind was filled with various extraordinary techniques and skills displayed by Tia Bai and others during their confrontation. Longing for it endlessly, he couldn't help but sigh. "Why are you sighing?" A gentle voice came from the door. Zhang Xiaofan was startled and turned his head to see that it was senior sister Su Ru standing at the door, with the night breeze gently blowing her clothes, making her look like a fairy. He quickly stood up and said, "Senior sister." Su Ru walked to his side, put her hand on his shoulder, and smiled. "It's okay, sit down." Zhang Xiaofan was pleasantly surprised, but didn't dare to disobey, so he sat down. Su Ru carefully examined his complexion, and then reached out to touch his chest, nodded, and said, "It's okay, there's no major injury." She then took out a small white bottle from her chest and poured out a yellow pill the size of a fingertip, handing it to Zhang Xiaofan, saying, "Take it." Zhang Xiaofan hesitated for a moment, took it, and swallowed it. After a moment, he felt a warm sensation rising from his danshan, spreading to his limbs and head. His whole body felt warm and comfortable, and even the faint pain in his chest disappeared. Surprised and delighted, Zhang Xiaofan stood up and moved his body a little. Everything was back to normal. The effect of the medicine was miraculous and unbelievable. He was overjoyed and quickly said to Su Ru, "Thank you, senior sister." Su Ru smiled and nodded, and sat down on another chair, saying, "No need to thank me. Your master asked me to give you the Da Huang pill." Zhang Xiaofan was he regretted it after he hit you. It's just his temperament ... double quotes. There was a layer of faint pity on her gentle face, and she continued, "It's just that he has always been proud, and he values face very much. so even if he regrets it in his heart, he won't say it. You must not resent him, okay? Zhang Xiaofan shook his head and said, Senior sister, I dare not blame Master. I only blame myself for being too stupid and making Master angry. So you glanced at him, sighed lightly, and said, in fact, it has nothing to do with you. Cultivation and Taoism depend on individual aptitude. Although diligence can make up for one's shortcomings, there is still a gap. Your master understands this in his heart, and what he's really worried about is ... Zhang Xiaofan interrupted in surprise. What is master worried about? So you smiled faintly, with a hint of helplessness between her eyebrows, and said, talents like Che Hao and Lin Jing you are rare, but now in Qingyun Sect, the great bamboo peak is gradually declining. Although your master's cultivation is high, he often feels uncomfortable because his disciples are mocked by his peers. He is very proud and finds it difficult to bear, and he worries that after he ascends to immortality, the great bamboo peak may never turn things around, and he is actually very bitter in his heart. Zhang Xiaofan fell silent, speechless. So you then realized and shook her head with a bitter smile, saying, really? Why did I talk to you, a 14-year-old kid, about these things? Saying that, she stood up, patted his shoulder, and said, rest early. Zhang Xiaofan responded, yes, senior sister, take care. Zhang Xiaofan escorted her to the door, watching her figure disappear before returning to the room. Just as he entered the room, his eyes suddenly lit up, seeing a red-clad woman standing beside the table in the room, her face as beautiful as a lotus, stunningly beautiful. He stared blankly, his heart beating faster suddenly, and he murmured softly, senior sister.